to all the dispossessed youth of Africa, for perpetuation of communion with ancestral spirits through the fight for African freedom, and in the firm faith that the dead, the living, and the unborn will unite to build the destroyed shrines. Selah. Hello and welcome, beloveds, to another episode of Ask Dr. Mumbi. My name is Dr. Mumbi Saraki. How you doing? How's everything going? I really do pray that you are well in all your ways and that you're moving into living life truly on your own terms. And the only way to live life on your own terms is to live life fully in your own story, a story that you have researched, where you believe your soul came from, what you believe you're here to do, and then to move every day, even if it's just one step every day, to fulfilling that very important destiny. Thanks to everyone that has subscribed to the channel. 90K and climbing, almost hitting that 100K. I love it. We are actually going to be reviving our primary channel, beloveds. In relation to what I'm about to talk to today, we released a show, I think a week ago, where we talked about don't let them back in. Don't let people back in. If you already know they're toxic to your life, if you already know they're only going to bring nothing but drama and heartache and pain. And I kind of shared a bit of my story, and the response was so overwhelming. I heard from so many people, and I really feel that us as chosen ones, because many of the people who watch this channel are chosen ones, it's like we've made it. We've made it. We're on the other side. We're in the new world. But there's still so much trauma and PTSD, beloveds, from what we've experienced, and even sometimes a lack of, total clarity of what we've been through. So I'm definitely thinking of reviving the primary channel to kind of look at some of overcoming some of these traumatic things that we have gone through as chosen ones, as one, as game changers, as the gods of the new world, the ones who are going to create and reestablish many, many things. But those are definitely stories for other days. Definitely check out my primary channel, Dr. Mumbi Show. So one of the main questions that I got from a lot of you was, you'd experienced either your parents were abusive, your spouse was toxic, but you'd had those dynamics where you had someone in your life that you loved, that you thought was for you, but they were actually against you, and it took you so long to see it, and they were emotionally violent. Many were physically violent. There's so many whose mothers put them through all manner of things, beloveds. Some think it's the fathers that were sexually abusing, but it's actually the mothers, beloveds. And I heard you. And the main question was, how do I heal? Because, I'm through it. I'm through to the other side, but I'm still super traumatized. And sometimes even those people are still somehow in your life. So, the steps that I'll share the steps that I've used that I think will be of most use to you. And number one is to learn a lot. You see, Babylon calls it personality disorders, beloveds, but these are like spiritually crazy people. So the first thing I would do is look into narcissism, because that's the label that Babylon has given it, and read everything you can about all those dynamics. Read about your dynamics. If you were in, if you had abusive parents, if your mother was a narcissist, look specifically into that and learn as much as possible, because that is also healing. When you listen to a lot of these counselors and psychologists break down, a grandiose narcissist, someone who believes they're larger than life, but at their very core, they're super weak, and because a lot of this is just weak spirits, beloveds, that can be taken over by different, their own lower vibrating selves and different demonic entities that they bow to. Maybe I'll get into that in another time, but learn as much about narcissism as you can, from a psychological point of view. Then learn it from people like I, who have just survived narcissistic parents or survived narcissistic spouses. Listen to the different things, and even that alone, beloveds, will be extremely healing. I'm telling you, for me, it brought a lot of tears, just knowing I wasn't alone and being able to just explain what had happened to me throughout my childhood. And this is what I want to get deeper into in Dr. Mumbi show, so I'll definitely do that. But that's what I would do. Learn as much about it. Dive deep, beloveds. And you don't need money to do that. There's so many free resources online. There's, so many great YouTube channels. One of them is, she's a Hindu lady. She's called Dr. Ramani or something like that. Brilliant. And then there's also a lot of sisters and brothers who talk. Well, yeah, brothers, actually. I've seen 2 brothers really talking about narcissism. And so hear it also through our voices. You know what I mean? Because the other communities and the other nations make it sound so scientific, but our voices make it more relatable, if I can put it like that. So definitely learn that and start to heal yourself. Self-healing is the most important thing. And I think that's the next step. And the way to self-heal is to take the steps in learning what happened to you. And, some will need to journal. Cry it out, beloveds. Cry it out, because a lot of it has become body memory, and so the pain you blocked it from your mind, so you sent it to your knee. Did you know if you have a knee problem, it's usually represents bitterness? Anyway, and there's different joints and different pains that represent different, different spiritual things, which is why our physicians were the highest, beloveds. Our healers were the highest. Because if you went with a knee problem, they'd be able to say, it's because you've never forgiven your husband for A, B, C, D, and that has developed, you see? So they healed the whole thing instead of just patching it up. I'm just giving one example. So self-healing is in your hands. You can listen to the shows, you can do the different exercises, you can just take your healing in your own hands. Especially at such a time as this, when many have a lot of, time on their hands. And self-healing is just do something, listen. And I'm telling you, because the thing that you need to heal is just the mental trauma. And that comes through over inner and understanding. And then just, as I said, crying it out. Let's take a short break. We'll be right back.
Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, Africa.
Welcome back, beloveds, to Ask Dr. Mumbi. My name is Dr. Mumbi Seraki. So how do we heal from the trauma and pain of toxic relationships? What can we do? And, the thing that I found is that there is so much that is at your disposal. There is so much that is in your hands that you can do right now, beloveds. That you can, there's so many actions that you can personally take to start the healing process, learning about narcissism, because that's mainly, they call it a personality disorder. I really don't call it that. But that's mainly where there's a lot of description, listening to different testimonials of people who are like you, who have gone through the same thing. That is the most important thing. And I think it's also part of the healing process is to set up boundaries, because a lot of us, we're talking about mothers, fathers, brothers, sisters, husbands, ex-husbands, wives, ex-wives, people that for many it may be hard to let go of, because the first step, the best step would be to cut these people from your life. Whether it's your mother, your father, your cousin, your brother, your sister, is to remove them from your life, because they will not change. You cannot change anybody, beloveds. The only person you can change is yourself, and the only circumstances you can change are yours. And the way to change your circumstances is to change the people who are creating that collective circumstance with you. So it is absolutely critical, beloveds, that you create some kind of boundaries to keep, to create a distance between you and those toxic family members, toxic spouses, etc., to ensure that, that you guys are keeping a healthy, you're keeping a healthy boundary around yourself. So you're protecting your energy. It's absolutely critical. But if they are people that you have to have in your life, beloveds, and there's, you have absolutely no choice, then I would highly recommend that you start doing something. I think they call it gray walling or gray. Yeah, I think it's called gray walling. But don't stop oversharing. In fact, don't share anything, because these are people who they're not here to celebrate you. They're here to destroy you. They're here to dampen your spirit, to limit your vibe so that it's harder for you to take certain actions in your life. So it's so critical and important, beloveds, for you to now start to keep certain things to yourself, because the only things they can destroy are the things they know about. And the main thing that drives the toxic people in our lives eventually is envy and jealousy. Especially if they've been trying to put you down, you have to look at these people as agents, as the enemy of your soul, as handlers. And, some of them, beloveds, they are deeply in the occult, beloveds. Absolutely. Very deeply in the occult. And so there's certain things they do to keep you silent, to bind you, to keep you from seeing exactly what is going on. And so it is absolutely critical that you keep certain things to yourself. And if you haven't developed that discipline, like every time you see them, you overshare, you tell them what's going on, maybe to you because you're trying to prove something, or they have a way of just bringing you down. So in terms of trying to show them that you're not down there, you now share things that you didn't want to. I would actually, the way I did it with a narcissist in my life is I picked one story and I went on that story and everything. So whenever I talk to them, because also for a lot of us empaths and a lot of us who are chosen ones, it's so exhausting to lie. It's so exhausting to, to tell a falsehood, beloveds, and to keep that falsehood going. But that's why we can't understand the nature of these beastly people, beloveds. And so I found, instead of lying, you can omit certain truths and just not talk about it. And then pick a small story, either with your career, which doesn't show all the facets of your career, or with, something that is even just a blemish in terms of that full story. And let that be the narrative that you always discuss with that person. And also, when it comes to speaking to yourself, you'll find a lot of these toxic people love to hear themselves talk, love to hear themselves telling the story. So encourage that. If you find it uncomfortable to to keep certain things a secret, then encourage that kind of conversation of, asking them questions. How's this going? How that's going? And that's a matter of deflection, deflecting the energy and the attention back to them, and they'll eat it up. So, and you have to think about this, and then having certain boundaries and barriers, because you'll find a lot of these toxic people, they don't respect you. So they won't respect your time. They won't respect your space. They won't respect your spiritual environment, your spiritual ways. So you have to limit their presence in your life. If they call you 5 times a day, pick up once every 2 days. Like, try and start to create that distance, beloveds. And I think the final and most important thing, and there's so many, I know, please, if you've been through this and you have your own coping mechanisms, please share them in the comments below. But the final one that I would say is start to see people as they really are. And as painful as it is, stop pushing things under the rug. Because it's only in that you'll be able to heal and move on. And let me mention that forgiveness is key. Because forgiveness is for you. A lot of us, because we don't see them as who they really are, we blame ourselves because they deflected a lot of their inadequacies onto us. So there's a lot of narratives and characteristics and feelings we have about ourselves that are not ours, but are someone else's. So they're like implanted in us. The fact that people never liked them, they would now deflect that to you and make you feel like people never liked you. I mean, wickedness, beloveds. They always project their, toxic people who feel inadequate, always project their inadequacies onto you. So recognize that fully. Start to see who they are and forgive what has happened, because it's over. You're done. You made it. You don't need to be in that cycle anymore. And celebrate the fact that you've made it this far, beloveds. It's not an easy feat. Many didn't. Many of you were driven to suicide, but you didn't take your own life. Driven to do some crazy things, but you maintained. And the heavenlies, the ancestors, your spiritual team celebrates you. Tuko pamoja.